Hey everybody, thanks for joining the EasyDMARC webinar. Why 2026 phishing attacks don't look like phishing anymore. They look like something else, but they're not phishing. And I am joined by none other than a couple of great industry experts. Connor Swam. Connor, say hello and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Connor. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Phin Security. We do security awareness training and phishing. So, phishing attacks are kind of what we look at day in, day out.
Fantastic. And I would say Wes Spencer needs no introduction, but we are going to introduce you, Wes Spencer, one of the founders of Empath. Wes, how you doing?
Yeah.
Tell us.
Hey, Mike, thanks for letting us join. We're huge fans of EasyDMARC and what y'all do. Thanks for bringing us on. I'm co-founder of Empath. We're a learning and workforce development platform for MSPs. So thanks for having us today. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah, and I'm Mike Anderson. I'm in charge of our global partner and MSP program. Got a team that works for me all over the world. But I just do my part. So it looks like people are coming in. The obligatory, have we reached the obligatory 1 minute while we're doing uh, introductions? It looks like we're about 1 minute. The numbers do keep ticking up. I like that. I like when numbers tick up. That's a good thing. So we can get started here and as people kind of come in. So what is the agenda? Of course, we just did introductions. We're going to do a panel discussion, just have conversations. I've got two of the industry's foremost, authorities on why this stuff looks different, why you're going to need to understand why phishing has changed, what all is involved, all of the things, the AI, the human interaction, what it does, and then we'll have a QA at the end. So should be a good brisk conversation. Let's get started. So the new face of social engineering, why email security needs reset. Connor?
I actually did this. I pulled this slide from a presentation I gave in the summer. We're not far off from summer now, even though the East has just gotten hammered with some more snow. So I hope people are done digging themselves out for the second time. But the biggest thing that I called out at that presentation, specifically to a lot of clients of the MSPs that I work with, because I was talking directly to the business owners, was this perception of even how it's progressed since then, but their perception of what attacks were going to look like and their clients' perceptions of what attacks were going to look like were still we're going to get a phone call that sounds robotic, like the IRS is calling you. We're going to get impersonation. We're going to get people from random email domains trying to impersonate folks. There's going to be poor grammar involved, and maybe everyone's already seen it before, so they'll easily identify it. And in the presentation, I actually went over a few examples of even as of July of last year, social engineering was nothing like that. It was your CEO or some of your executives' videos getting pulled off the internet and then trained on an audio deepfake or a video deepfake model then got leveraged where another tool was used to scrape LinkedIn networks to say, okay, who is likely to interface with this person on a regular basis? And then find their email, which it's not hard to find anyone's email these days, or just guess it at a company. And then like send an incredibly convincing, and I tried out some of these softwares, incredibly convincing. Like if my grandma got a call where somebody went online, I have dozens of videos of me online and said, I'm in jail. Grandma, I need you to come bail me out. She'd one look over the fact that I was in, like she would immediately be like, okay, yeah, Connor in jail. That tracks.
It
But
tracks.
that tracks. But then secondarily, she just immediately go right along with it. That's how good these things are. And that's what I wanted to communicate to folks is like gone are the days of there is a pattern I can recognize, and as a result, I know this is phishing. And now the days are, wait a second, I need to take a way closer look at this. I need to confirm with the individual because nothing is off the table. All of it can be brought into something that looks, smells like, sounds like, feels like people you work with on a daily basis.
I remember when that just used to just would that whole assumption would just sound outrageous that you would need somebody a Pixar expert to do that, and now just with some
Yeah.
tools that you can get off the internet, a 13-year-old can do that. Wes, man, what are you guys seeing in your training adventures? You talk to so many different vendors across the security sector. You've got to have a really broad knowledge about this. What do you guys feel?
Yeah, so Connor, I mean, he and I are super good friends. We've known each other for a long time. We were chatting about this earlier. He's exactly right. We know the world's changed, right? The thing I think we have to think about, like if we go back to just classic information security theory, like if anyone took a cyber course in college, or if anyone comes from a military background, one of the things they're going to tell you is in order to be successful on the field of warfare, you have to know yourself, you have to know your enemy, you have to know your battlefield. Right. And this goes all the way back to Sun Tzu, right? Like if you know yourself and your enemy, you'll win a thousand battles, right? If you know yourself and you don't know your enemy, you win half your battles. This tale as old as time. But one of the things I would challenge folks on today, and I think this is why people have joined, is we used to say the battlefield was phishing, was emails coming in, was maybe like vishing, like voice, maybe some text messages that have come in. And so then we said, well, we know ourselves that we click on anything and we know the enemy that they want us to click on something and they deliver. But like I am telling y'all, the battlefield is different, our people are different, and our enemy is different. And I don't think most of us have really come to reckoning with that. And as we advance through this, we'll expose more of this. But like we have to understand, we've changed, battlefields change, bad guys change. It's yes, you're still gonna see phishing email attacks, but really what they're going after and maybe what hasn't changed and what we need to keep up with is the trust vector, right? It's the trust vector itself that bad guys are wanting to seize into. If you think about this like an oil pipeline, if I were to be able to siphon off oil from the middle of the pipeline, what are you going to do about it, right? The trust is the pipeline. What's flowing through that trust layer is the oil, or is like our information. So what bad guys are constantly doing is thinking, how do I insert myself into your trust pipeline? It used to be that email was an easy way to do it. Well, we've done a good job with training. We've done a good job with like DMARC and all these things that really have locked this stuff down. So what are bad guys doing in response to that, right? I just did a cyber call with Andrew Morgan a couple weeks ago. We had Kelvin on, and Kelvin was talking about just all the Microsoft 365 stuff. And one of the things he called out, and this came to my mind, Connor, as you were talking about it, was he's like, how many MSPs set up conditional access? And they're like, I'm good, man. I got this set up like a wall. And then you're like, yeah, but what about mobile devices? And they're like, well, I exclude mobile devices because when someone signs up for the first time, it might cause friction. Well, guess what a bad guy does? When they're going after you, they change their user agent to a mobile device. Off they go. And we see these things in attacks. We see these in real breaches. And we're like, wait a second. I never thought that, right? Because we haven't really assessed the battlefield that well. And we certainly haven't assessed our enemy. And so I think what we want to do today is expose a lot of this to help us understand it's not just phishing anymore, that it really comes to a much broader battlefield, a much more advanced adversary.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. The last time I literally almost got fished and spoofed is it came through a text, and I'm like, oh, my Verizon's late, and it looked like Verizon. And then I'm like, didn't I just pay? Isn't this on auto pay? And then I go to my Verizon site, paid. I'm like, boy, that was good. You almost got me. You almost got me. And so, yeah, no, these vectors are changing and outperforming the defenses fast. So I'm looking forward to you guys talking through how we're going to get this covered. So, how do we prevent this social engineering, right? How do we get a reality check? With all this stuff going on? How do we cover all these bases?
We must be on the same list, Mike, because I'm getting the exact same Verizon text too. I do the same thing. I'm like, I'm gonna log into my Verizon account. It's like you're up to date. You're good. I'm like, all right, I had the thought. Maybe one of these days I won't. I'll be too tired or something, but
Yeah.
Sure.
at least for now.
Yeah. So
Um,
how do we stay above this stuff? There's so many avenues. Talk to us about how we combat this through the behavior.
I've had a lot of spirited debate with cybersecurity professionals around like how do you actually prevent this social engineering? And there's two camps. There is the only thing that'll fix this is you actually have policy that is regularly followed by your employees on a consistent basis, and then you follow up with employees to make sure they're still following it and to make sure that they still are aware of it. A very pedantic example to give is a wire transfer over X amount in order to actually be authorized needs to have face-to-face verification, or you need to physically like call them from like a number that you know exists. You're not just provided the number and then you call them. So a policy like that. And then there's the other camp that exists that's like, well, actually, there's all of this offensive AI technology. So that also means there's this defensive AI technology. And the point that always comes up between those two is a concept that's still called the defender's dilemma. I know Wes and I have chatted ad nauseum about this, but the defender's dilemma in short is if you're like fighting I don't want to call them the offenders, the malicious actors, they need to be right once. The defenders need to be right all the time, forever. Like the 5 nines of uptime isn't even good enough with how much people are getting attacked today. So that's where the conversation always ends up gravitating towards for me. I'd be curious to hear Wes's thoughts too.
As far as like just those the defender's dilemma and like which camp? Is
Yeah,
that what you
well,
mean?
preventing this, like where do
I
you
mean,
see the world going
you
in
got so
preventing
many
this?
channels. It almost seems like we're regressing. Hey, I'm going to need to see you face to face. Didn't we do
Yeah.
that back in the 70s? Isn't that or so we're going backwards. I mean, with all these
And
channels, Wes, what do they do?
well, and we've hit an era where we regularly talk to people that can't distinguish between AI and real. Literally yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine, military background, works at Central Command here in Tampa. So, like, well-to-do individual, right? Highly trained, very high in the government, right before he retired. I won't say more than that. And he was like, "Yeah, we were talking about elephants because obviously our logo." And he's like, "Man, I was watching this video the other day of this lion that snuck up behind this hippo, and somehow we went from elephants to hippos and jungle animals and all this." And he's like, "And it bit the hippo on the tail, and then the hippo." Like, I don't know how to say this politely, defecated on the
Yeah, I
lion. The
saw
lion went
that.
flipping upside down backwards. And I didn't want to tell him, but I'm like, I've seen that same stupid video, and 100% that is Sora. 100%. And here we are in this era where people regularly have like they cannot distinguish themselves today between even with just run-of-the-mill consumer grade apps like Sora between reality and what's fake. And so and I'm even show you an example of this I made just the other day. I was playing around in a couple slides. I'll play you a little video that shows this. So we again we have to assume the battlefield's changed to go back to this, right? And so Connor, like I'm kind of with you. I like we always do have to default back to like what we know mechanically we have to like we what our expectations of our users are and to make sure that we've trained them. Like I get that first camp for sure, like it
Yeah.
it makes sense to me, but we also have to recognize like we will never be able to fully catch up and keep up with all these things. So now this shifts into like a lot of what you've got here of how can we start to do things. Like someone told me the other day, they said they were listening to a podcast on like this AI futurist. He said, you know what we've done now? He said we all I know it sounds crazy. But they all took their phones, they took all their devices, moved them to a different room. He brought the family together and he said, "We are going to now have a family safe word. And we're not going to share what this safe word is to the rest of the world, but this is our private safe word that we might slip into a conversation at some point if we're just not sure." And I don't even say, like, Mike, safe word is like happy cats. I don't even say it. I just somehow slip it in. That way, I have an off channel, off way of knowing that it's unaffected by anything stored in memory anywhere except for up here. And I use that as a mechanism to decipher. It's very akin to, you guys remember the movie, shoot, what is it where they spin the dice? With Leonardo DiCaprio and they're in the dreams, Inception. It's
Inception.
very, very, very much like Inception, where I spin the dice to say, because I am not capable of understanding, am I in a dream within a dream or is this real life, right? And I know we're getting real philosophical right now, but we have to start thinking about some of these kinds of things of like, I can't rely, to Connor, to your point, on traditional means all the time. Now, I will say this. Don't hear me say abandon everything. What I'm saying is this goes back to classic theory. We put the right layers and security in place overall, and enough layers will result in most cases with adequate defenses. So things like good multi-factor, things like you mentioned callback checks on a wire, things like making sure that I do have voice verification. I might actually have a safe code. I actually have a safe code with my bank. So it's not just me calling in. Someone could fake my voice with 11 Labs easy, but I have a specific thing that I say to my bank and they have it in record. If I don't say those things, they don't trust me. So like these are things we have to put in place, and we do need to think about how the battlefield's changed to make sure we stay up to date, because again, things have changed underfoot.
You remind me of a story I read where a very popular high profile streamer, like video game streamer, was people were attempting to impersonate him so much at his bank that he wrote them a letter, a contract, and had them sign it. That was any influx, like any time I ever request a wire transfer, it will be in person, and you will verify with a human physically in front of me that I am who I say I am and I am requesting this. At penalty of, if you do not follow this moving forward and you lose me money, like it's all on you. You owe it to me. And they actually ended up signing that with their bank.
That's nice. Hey, wait, Wes. My happy cats are playing over there. Let me take care of it. Yeah, so you guys make such good points. It sounds like, with all of this, it's multi-channel. You got to put a system in place, kind of like a home alarm. You don't just have your front door. You got your front door, your back, your windows. You got your cameras inside. So if you're gone, anything's moving, it will alert. It sounds like you really need to put a system in place.
I go back to something we're all very familiar with, which is just MFA. Like whether it's through your phone, whether it's through an authenticator app, whatever method you use. Why does MFA work? And it's because I made the request to access something in one channel, and I confirmed that I am who I say I am with another channel that you also believe is also valid. So when I hear my clients that I work with in the MSPs and they're talking to their clients, I always give them the same advice, which is if you are teaching your clients to recognize these kinds of attacks by any quality of the attack, by saying there's 6 fingers in the video that may have worked a year ago, doesn't work now. Their hand movements, that became another thing. Their facial movements. It's like things are so indistinguishable today and are only getting so much more indistinguishable. You need something outside of that actual content, outside of that communication, which is why I say multi-channel, code words, other detection tools. You need something, another trusted channel to verify that it is accurate or not in order for there to be any hope.
What about somebody that's not technical? Like Wes said, I know you got your family saying, but what about, other users, customers, people that aren't technical? How do you like get them into the fold?
It's an interesting question.
Yeah, I
I
mean it's different.
I think, boy, I think a lot of things. I won't elaborate too much on this because this actually happened to my family, and I'm not in the business of outing anyone, but I have someone in my extended family that ended up wiring away or actually using one of those Bitcoin ATMs and sent away a ton of money. And they did it under a voice call from an English speaking, English accent, male, authoritative sounding voice that said it was from the court system. And they had this affidavit out for an arrest, et cetera, et cetera. And this person that fell for it in my family is a business owner, which means they know how to take risk. They're very sharp as an individual. They've built their business successfully. It's got multiple campuses. Like what they're doing is like it's not like this was some run of the mill 85-year-old older person. This was a younger person about my age. And after the aftermath of the whole thing, like they could look back on it and say, how could I have fallen for that? But in the heat of the moment, in the aggression of the speaker and all of the things that they expected of like a foreign sounding accent and static on the line and all of this kind of stuff was absent. They're like, I just thought it was real. I thought it was real, and it set their business back about 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, I know
Um,
I know somebody that had that same fraud happened to, and they use authority and they use compelling, and so that was a very very compelling
and
fraud case.
and that right there, Mike, that's the answer. Like what we have to do is get back to the core philosophy of what the bad guy is trying to accomplish, right? And so at the end of the day, they want our money, they want our access, they want those things. And you just said it when you see the authority, you see the pressure to action, all of those things. If we teach that really well, now, I mean, you nailed it, Mike. That's what it is. If we can get that as a core understanding, then we can get our people to say, well, hold on, let me just think about this. I'll be back with you at some point. Let me just pause. 99.9% of the time when that happens, bad guy moves on.
Yeah,
What's the worst they're going to do? The government's coming after you. Okay, cool. Well, I'll worry about that when someone shows up at my door and knocks. Like,
yeah.
so that I think you nailed it. That is what we have to start really making sure we go back to is the genesis of what we
Yeah,
teach.
they use that authority to get compliance. That's what it's like the sixth axis of influence, right? Authority and compliance, right, are two of those axes, and they use these techniques. Boy, it's sophisticated. So,
Yeah.
A,
what you gonna
a
say?
phrase, a phrase that I've tried to tell people as well is that you can no longer rely on the sloppiness of the attacker as a way to identify that they're attacking you.
Yeah.
Like you need to have your own house in order. Know your whatever. I'm gonna steal that by the way, Wes. If you stole it from Sun Tzu, so I'll go read The Art of War one more time. Know yourself, know your opponent, and know the battlefield. Was that those were
Right.
the three?
Yep. Yep.
If if you hope to recognize an attack by the sloppiness of the attacker in any way, whether that is an email or a voice call or a video or a package that shows up on your door, or somebody who tries to badge into your physical office space, because even in person, this is still very applicable as well. You're going to be in for a rough treat, so to speak, because the attacks don't need it is so low effort to make a non-sloppy attack that is super targeted, super directed, and also very accurate, uh, that you can't rely on it being bad anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. All right, what do we got next? So phishing isn't an email problem, it's a trust routing problem. Um,
Yeah, I'll take the first kind of swing at this, and then Connor, I really want your feedback here because I know this is your world probably more than mine. But like, let's talk about what I wanted to do is make sure we gave like tangible examples of. So we talked about if you think about trust being the oil pipeline, right? Bad guys want to tap into that, right? Because they're going after the data, which is the oil. If we follow that, what are those mechanisms they might tap into? I just want to make sure that everyone today comes away with tangible outcomes, tangible things you've learned. So let's talk about OAuth consent phishing. We've seen, and Connor, I don't know about you, but I've seen there's an uptick in this. So what we're talking about is how often today are we in a passwordless world, right? Like with Empath, I don't store passwords. It's all, click and it's either one-time magic link or it's SSO, it's whatever. How often have we also seen the advent of all these awesome apps and I just literally click and then it brings up the OAuth page and it says, you consent to give me these things so I can give you access and I'm going to need X, Y, and Z, right? Well, what have we trained our users to do? The same thing they used to do with UAC. Remember when UAC comes up on Windows and we just click past it every single time? Like we didn't even think about what it just did. We're like, oh, whatever. I see. It's like Pavlov. We're seeing the same thing with OAuth. And I remember in my perch days way back in 2020, we talked about this. We're like, there will be an advent that will occur when we've done such a good job destroying phishing, the classic phishing, that bad guys will be forced to move to other things. And OAuth is going to be a target. So let me just pause on that one. Connor, do you see that as well? Any thoughts on OAuth itself?
I see a lot of that. It's like a bastardized version of SSO, I guess, which is centrally controlled and managed by somebody else, but you are uh, giving a piece of your identity, I guess is the way I've always thought about it, to a very large conglomerate most often. And that makes a single point of failure necessarily. Maybe you trust them because they're more secure. That's also an argument to be made, but absolutely see this.
Yep. So next one is device code phishing, right? So now what we've seen, I've left my phone in the other room, unfortunately, I was going to pull it out and show you, but like now we're in an era where our device is used as a primary authentication mechanism, which is great. Like I'm not hating against it. There's sites where multi-factor codes are typically stored. It's where we do push notifications, all this kind of stuff. And so now the device itself is very, very, very important. If you go way back to listening to like Sunil Yu, who wrote the Cyber Defense Matrix, he wrote some stuff where he would talk about the difference between cattle and pets. There's this idea of like, it's kind of a visceral example, but it works. He's like, my pets I protect, they're important to me, they're precious. I take them to the vet, I keep them alive as long as I can. They stay in my house, etc. Cattle, if I live on the farm, in and out, rinse, repeat, I do everything together as a whole. I slaughter them as a whole, I take care of them as a whole thing, right? And he's like, we need to treat our end user devices as cattle to where I can blow it away anytime I want. I can get rid of it anytime I want. And if you come from like good practice MSP, a lot of the devices that you manage today are cattle, right? You can blow away an end user machine without a ton of impact because data is stored on the cloud. You've got all kinds of enrollments for that machine. You can wipe it, reset it, et cetera, right? The problem that we run into today is that our devices really don't do that so well. And I'll give you plenty of examples, right? With the advent of mobile device management, like I get it, right? We have to put MDM in place, even if it's something as simple as Intune, because we don't have business makers that want the budget for a second device that they have the ability to treat like cattle. So now I actually have a phone that's a pet, but I want to be able to treat it like a cattle and I can't. And unfortunately, I use that device for all things authentication. That becomes a primary target for a bad guy. That really becomes something a bad guy wants to go after. And so now we have this world where the device itself is extremely lucrative to a bad guy if they can get access to it. And you see all manner of attacks go against it. I personally am under attack right now. I've been for the past month, I've been getting these MFA push fatigue attacks on my personal Microsoft accounts. I'm sure you get them too. Literally all the time, my phone will pop up and it's like, you've requested access to reset. Click here. And of course, it gives you the three numbers and you can hit deny or you can just ignore it. But like, it worries me that at some point in the haze of like late night, I actually am trying to reset something. It happens at the right time and I do the wrong one. So my point is this is predominant and it's not going to go away. Mike and Connor, any thoughts on that one?
I mean, I'm just want to know what the most logical answer is. It sounds like, just hyper awareness, but I'd like to hear Connor's thought on that for sure.
My mind immediately went to, geez, what's going to happen with passkeys? Because I know that passkeys and, like, for instance, I use Google Chrome not only on my work computers, but also on my, like, desktop at home and also on my phone. And I do that because I can have my work profile, my personal profile, and whatever else I want, and everything's stored nice and easy. And then I secure it with a passkey, which is basically like a biometric. In my case, it's biometric. It's either my face or my thumbprint or something like that. And like, I guess the only reason we trust those now is because the attacker would have to be in the room with me in order for that to work. And that's like, I almost go to like Lord of the Rings. That's like the last hope for humanity. It's like, well, the attacker's not in the room with us, guys, so we're okay. Like as long as we can trust that. And I'm like, oh, geez, I wonder if that's ever going to change. I hope not. I see a lot
Well,
of calendar phishing. One comment here. A lot of
oh
like
yeah.
specifically with again executives. I hate the term pig butchering scam because it's just another set of words that's described phishing and social engineering just on executives and people who have a lot of access and information and power at an organization. But a lot of people will make the correct assumption that their calendars are not being set solely by themselves. And so they will send calendar invites that automatically get placed on the calendar, have a very good chance of getting accepted by somebody else. And then, even as a part, especially if you're all in the Microsoft ecosystem, a part of that calendar invite could be something to download, which is just another opportunity to inject some kind of malicious crap into the middle of everything. I've had several MSPs reach out to us and say that that's exactly what they're dealing with now, and do we have anything to help their clients recognize it?
Okay,
It
now that I'm ready to just climb into a hole and shut everything off, thanks a lot, you two. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. This is a great call. Lots of good stuff. But
Um,
what does it mean that my password just doesn't matter anymore?
So, yeah, I put this on here because, again, we're starting to see finally this evolution away from password, right? We passwordless systems, authentication based on other means. Again, going back to classic info theory. If you don't know, I used to be a professor of information security back in a former life. And what I would teach my kids was there are three forms of authentication: what I know, what I am, and what I have. And for the longest time, we've used what I know going all the way back to the Unix days because a passcode it worked really well in those days and was very simple to authenticate, made life really easy. But really, what was happening, if you were to like dissect, if I can just get a little nerdy for a second, if you were to dissect what happens, is basically that passcode is what authenticates the system to say, now I'm going to grant credentials and a token and ability to do all these things. Well, bad guys care less about the password and more about the token, more about that level of access. And so if you were to go and you were to look on any of these dark web forums where credentials are being bought and sold, there a lot of times what's happening is they're actually selling full access to the credentials and the token. And the reason the token is so valuable is because I can use something like Evil Engine X that lets me import that active token. And now I have full access to everything you have because the system that I'm connecting to is like, oh, yeah, I already know you. I don't have to authenticate you again in this world of everyone hating authentication fatigue. I recognize that you have
yeah.
a valid token. So what the bad guy is really going after, and we see this in the Verizon data, right? If you go look at the Verizon data breach incident response data every single year they publish, it's free. You're going to see this being the case that bad guys want credentials because credentials is the marketplace that they can sell. And inside the credentials, they want the token. And so we're seeing this evolution on our end as the defender side of removing passwords, which I'm full support of. But we're also continuing to see bad guys still be able to siphon out not just credentials, but access via tokens. and all of the things that come with that. And so we just have to recognize this, right? So it doesn't mean password managers are no longer useful. They are. It just means that bad guys have really, they're a few steps ahead of us for sure when it comes to these things. Connor, any thoughts on that?
For those of you who don't know what tokens are, like when I log into an account on my web browser, I authorizing I am who I say I am. You can let me get access to this thing. And then the token that Wes is talking about is usually stored in your browser. So if you have any kind of malicious software, if you have somebody who has something that's able to sniff that out, that lets them get access from virtually any device or anywhere in the world. It's like what if it was, all the rich people at Disney, those passes that they get that just let them swipe in, they're not waiting for lines. It's almost like that. It's way
Yeah.
better than the password, like Wes said, because it just lets them do whatever they want. It's already innately trusted by the service or software that you're attempting to access, because they expect that you'll also want to access it via other devices or other means. And God forbid they make you log back in again on another device, which creates more fatigue, which means you're not going to adopt or buy more of their software. And so they just make it seamless. I'm air quoting seamless between everything, which also is more risk.
What is the answer to fighting something like that? I can't imagine you'd have to get a new token every time, but apparently it sounds like.
Uh, there are best practices that unfortunately need to be adhered to by the service provider, not necessarily yourself, because all of this is happening way, way down deep beyond the scope of consciousness, like for an average web browser. And so, like, you can have things like token life. You can also have for not, it's not conditional access, but you can actually start looking for weird access patterns and make tokens refresh or not refresh. So there are things that, and a lot of this is actually covered in OWASP, which is secure development, secure design for software and architecture. But unfortunately, especially in today's vibe coded world, a lot of that's taken a back seat to my DoorDash got here 2 minutes earlier, or I don't know, whatever crazy people are doing with vibe coded apps these days.
Yeah, good stuff. So the sketchy links thing in the past, I mean, we have, phishing URL detectors on the EasyDMARC, and you can embed, MSPs can embed that in their website. So, everybody, it seems like those things are everywhere. Is that really still a thing?
Knowing where you are on the internet is very important still, because a very common attack that still works is just phishing you out of your Microsoft credentials, because they'll wait for you to authorize on your device and then take your token, as Wes said, which allows them access with less scrutiny. So knowing where you are on the internet is incredibly important, especially if you're going to attempt to enter a password or some other kind of authorization.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. And I'll give just a few extra thoughts. I want to circle back to what Connor said because you're exactly right. So a few things I would look for is we've got to start shifting towards passkeys away from passwords, right? Because passkeys, the way they're built, and I'm not smart enough to get into the science of it, right? But like passkeys and physical, like FIDO2 keys, like that is where that is a strong way to go to protect against the token itself, right? So that's a big component. The other thing that we want to look at, y'all go take a look at Microsoft Learn. Go start diving into conditional access. Look at what Kelvin produces, Nick Ross. There's a bunch of really great producers that are out there. They're giving free information away. You've got to become masters of conditional access. You've got to learn how to protect devices themselves, how tokens are actually received and used. So that's a big component. That will do a lot. Like Connor said, shortening the lifetime, and you're gonna have to educate your people on like, hey, we're just not gonna do keep lives on tokens forever. You're gonna have to refresh at a minimum X number of days, right? That's a decision between you and the client. Should it be a day? Should it be a week? Should it be a month? Maybe different on different systems, right? But you're gonna have to really have that conversation. And then the other thing I would think about too is you got to think about the endpoint and how you protect the token itself from leaking. That's something I don't hear enough people talk about. So like in browser security is really important, making sure that devices are, we know the device that's connecting, that it's properly hardened, that we're not allowing malicious browser toolbars to be installed. Like there's a lot that we have to do to protect against the token. And if we protect the token, then we protect the output, right? Because then there's no token to be taken advantage of. So just want to throw those things out there as well, that some areas you can go and chase after you listen to this webinar to say, cool, I'm going to beef up in those areas.
How does the average MSP do that for one of their clients? I mean, that sounds like some next level
Can
detail.
I give a hot take?
Of course.
If you can't do those things, you shouldn't be an MSP.
Well, there you go. See, that's why I'm not an MSP.
Me too.
I'm just a famous face on the internet talking about MSPs. I don't actually do it. I just talk
right.
about it.
We just want to talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
Here's the reality. How many MSPs do we know that are like, I'm tired of the ankle biters? I'm like, I am too. Well, how do we get rid of the ankle biters? We realize we got to step up our game. Don't be an ankle biter. Don't be an ankle biter security. All this stuff is out there. Like what I'm telling you is not magic stuff. Go read up. It's all out there. Spend the time to go and learn. There's differences between, what do they call a doctor who graduated last in the class and first in the class? They're all called doctor, right? It's in the MSP world. It's the same way. You're all an MSP. The key is, are you going to do the work today to survive against the threat landscape in the future? Yeah, it's harder. Yeah, it's more expensive. But these are the things that keep you alive when the ankle biters will fall away, when compliance, regulation, challenges, the changes in the market, all of these things cause them to ebb and flow. Congrats, you get what you want. Finally, a defensive moat to be an MSP. So I love it. And I think you should too.
So MSPs, takeaway. Reach out to Wes Spencer directly to get all this information. I'm just kidding.
He would give it to you. I know he would.
Do that. But
He
yeah,
won't.
I'll give you what I know, but it's
He
mostly
won't.
go look at smarter people than me,
Yeah,
like Nick
yeah.
Ross and Kelvin.
Yeah. No, listen to what he's saying. It sounds like the data's out there. So that's good. The MSP game has to just continue to elevate. I love every bit of that. We teach that with our MSPs. You want to be successful, you're going to have to elevate your game.
The other side of how AI is actually impacting phishing is not necessarily what the attack looks like, but the quantity. And so, like I believe it was, I forget who popularized you're not small enough to get hacked or too small to make the news.
Yeah, I've heard that though. It's
Yeah.
good.
And in reality, I think the way I phrase this is a kid with an internet connection and $5 to his name somewhere, anywhere around the world could be the reason your client gets breached today. And that's just the reality because it's so much easier to start attempting to extract information access or money, specifically from American businesses because of how wealthy we are comparative to the rest of the world. That what you really want to be is like that businessman who wasn't faster than the bear, but was just faster than the slowest businessman, so that you don't get eaten. Like you want to make sure that you are not your clients are not the victim of the drive-by attacks because that's more of what you're going to be experiencing today. Um, I think it was somebody else who said, if a nation state wants to get you, there's nothing you're going to do. Just accept your fate or something like that. But that's not 99.9999% of people. It's just, are you faster than the next slowest guy so that he gets taken and you don't? That's really what it comes
Yeah,
down
I
to.
don't have to outrun the bear. I just got to
Yeah.
outrun you guys. And I'm confident.
Conditional access is an example of that. It's like if you're not doing that for your client or at least bringing them into that conversation and trying to deploy that for them, it's an example of you might be the slowest guy and you need to start speeding up.
Wes, show us
Yeah.
on this next slide, how you're going to ruin my, imaginary trust complaint that I have that there's no way they could fool me. Don't send me a video of you telling me to wire you $10,000 because you're in jail. But go ahead and show me how you do that.
Yeah, we'll hit Plan's dumb video in just a second. Or now's fine. Yeah, now works too. Yeah. So I made this the other day. It's not high quality, but I just wanted to show you in an hour I made this. And I used multiple AI platforms. I used Nano Banana to create the freeze frames. I used something called Cling to put them together, and then I used some AI like music you can't hear to throw it all together. And so like what it does is it's taking a freeze frame. So I went to Nano Banana. I'm like, create an image of me holding a cell phone only in my right hand and make it a background scene of in each of these movies. I prompted it, right? So you can kind of see each of the movies that are in place. And I'm like, and after you do that, what I did was I went to Cling, which is sort of like a AI video editor, and it can make a video off an image. And then what it can do is you can trigger it to say, make it off a beginning still frame and an end still frame. So like beginning end still frame might be like Freddy Krueger, and then end is Stranger Things. So then it does it. And then I do it all over again. I say beginning is Stranger Things, end is Batman. And so now what I can do is I can very easily just string this together and make it look like this cool video. Now, of course, you and I know that this is AI because here I am in these movie sets that don't exist anymore, et cetera, right? I get that. But I just want to show you like in an hour, it was really that easy. If anyone cares, I'll send you all the prompts on how to make it. It's a fun little thing to send to family, right? But I think what it illustrates is this question here. Let's actually turn the tables. We've been talking about how these threats are possible. Your clients need to know about them. You need to protect them. I want to now flip the table and ask you all this question. How are you protecting yourself from your clients? What are you doing to protect your technician from getting a call in from you think is your client, and they're asking you to reset creds? They're asking you to turn off this thing. They're asking you to install this line of business app for them. And your tier one, God forbid, they have not understood this modern threat landscape. And the guy is doing what Mike said, talking with urgency, talking with authority, and they fall apart and they go and allow this thing that actually the bad guy is having you open the door for them. That is one of the worst case scenarios because it's probably going to trigger your tech E&O because the entryway happened from a bad guy manipulating your trust with your client, but you let them in. So it's your liability. So I just want to start with this conversation. What kind of conversations have y'all as MSPs had today about bringing the company together and saying, how are we protecting ourselves against our clients? How are we making sure that we're not doing something stupid to allow them in? How are we educating our own people? Because I'm not seeing enough of that happen right now. Connor, what about you?
That's diabolical, man. That's diabolical.
Something I had never even thought of, but was in this vein that you're talking about, Wes, that a customer made really apparent to me was how does your client know when you've shown up instead of somebody else as well? And their reasoning was like the logo that's on their t-shirt. Like, all right, we have a company dress code. And I was like, isn't your logo on your website? They're like, yeah. I was like, Googled around real quick. I was like, there's 14 embroidery shops within a mile of your client. Like, I hate to break it to you, like that's not enough in today's day and age.
Yep.
One thing that we recommend, I recommend every MSP partner do this, specifically in Phin, is you should be giving them a video that is not cybersecurity training, but is training on how to interface properly with you and to make it super clear and to make it super apparent. If you don't do this, it's not that we hate you, it's that we can't afford a mistake, so we're not going to give you support unless it comes in this way. And then that would include everything such as here is the email to send a request to, here's the information you need, or here's the form, here's the web address, here's our website, here's a picture of the people that are likely to reach out to you. Like I tell them they should put everything like that, make it a 3 minute long video. It doesn't need to be incredibly long, but it is everything your client would need to identify you. And then the problem of identifying the client, I've never thought about that, but I could definitely see how it could go both ways.
Yep.
Yeah, how do they fight against this? I mean, these new phone calls that fake people's voices. I mean, what is this solution to stuff like that?
Um,
This stuff
th-
sounds
this is the advice I always gave to individuals, and it works for if it works for your bank, it'll work for your MSP, and it'll work for anyone. Is if your bank calls you and says, "Hey, like alert on your account," like, and they're trying to get your information. It's a scammer, let's say. What you should do if that's not enough, if it's not enough to just believe Mike, Wes, and Connor and to say, "Hey, your bank's not calling you, you're good." If that's not enough to calm your fears, what you should do is hang up and call the number on your bank's website. So you should go to the bank's website and you should look for their support number. If your bank is actually good, I know that there are some that don't do this. They'll have a page or they'll have it at the bottom in the footer that's like, here's all the approved phone numbers you can call. Um, uh, that is the way to properly handle the request, because then you're probably going to get to a support person and they're probably going to be like, no, what are you talking about? But in the event that it is an actual issue, you're talking to the right people and you could verify it. Um, I actually ran into this, by the way. If I have 2 minutes to tell a story, the
Yeah,
whole the
please.
whole idiom of the IRS will not call you, 100% true for individuals. For businesses, That is not the case. The IRS will absolutely call you. And I didn't know this. I had only ever been preaching like IRS is never going to call you. IRS is never going to call you. So I get a call one day. And this was before I put like reject unknown numbers on my cell phone, by the way, which is what I have now. But I call a guy's like, hey, I'm with the IRS. We have a problem. I was like, hey man, I teach this stuff for a living. No, like the IRS doesn't call you, but good try, dude. Like go to the next person. He's like, listen, I understand why you believe that and why you think that. I need you to do two things for me. It's like, all right, dude, what? And he's like, go to irs.gov. I was like, immediately, I was like, uh-oh. It's like, that's the real website. It's like, okay. He's like, go to like, and there was like this page that was like, go to this page and it has all of our contact information. And I pulled it up. I was like, okay. He's like, look at the number I called you from. Is it on that page? I was like, yeah, but you could spoof that. He goes, okay, go to this other page. He's like, I'm this person. And then I see this guy's picture. I had no idea who he was. I don't even remember his name anymore. And he's like, do you see the extension attached to that? And you see how it's on the number? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I'm gonna hang up the phone and you're gonna call me on that. I was like, okay. Hung up the phone, dialed it back, put the extension in. It's like, hello? He goes, yeah, it's still me, dude. And I was just like, wait, you actually work with the IRS? He's like, go to LinkedIn if you need more proof, dude. Like here, I'm gonna send you an email from the irs.gov web address, and it's gonna have further instructions. I was like, all right, man, what? Sure. This is the craziest phishing ever. Still wasn't even convinced. And then I got the email. And I was just like, called him back. I was like, hey, man, I'm so sorry, but you understand, right? He goes, I completely understand, but now I need your help. What had ended up happening was an enterprising MSP thought it was great to impersonate the IRS as a phishing campaign to their clients. And since we're in the stack trace of like, we technically sent the email, our infrastructure did, it got tracked all the way to us and then to the MSP and then to the client's email infrastructure. So we got looped in. It ended up not being an issue. Like we did what we needed to fix it. They're like, you need to make sure nobody ever does this again. But like, it was just a perfect example of everything I train people to do. It just fell apart. And he's like, actually, here's what I need you to do. You're going to go to the website that you trust and that I trust, and we're going to look at information there together. And then we're going to call back from a different number that's on that trusted source. And then you'll believe me.
So
And
basically, the architect from the Matrix called you, and you figured it out.
yeah,
Yeah. So
it was like a surreal
yeah,
experience.
that was yeah. He
And
he he compelled. He used his authority to compel compliance, and you did it.
honestly, at some point in that, like I thought to myself, I was like, hey, if this is phishing, like I'm
This
ready
is
to
the
be on
best ever.
Darknet
This guy gets
Diaries.
the
Like, yeah,
trophy.
I'm ready to tell this story publicly from a
Uh,
jail cell or something. Like,
this,
it's like
this is
this
the
is crazy.
Mount Everest of phishing hacks. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Wes, what do you see?
I think Connor is correct. I think that we do have to recognize that this stuff is difficult. If we hit the next slide, I knew this conversation thread would probably come up, and I'm on this mission personally of like, I don't ever want to do a webinar ever again where I don't give like discussion questions. I don't give like something you can take back to your teams because I hear you watching. There's a bunch of people that are listening today. Your job is to take what you've learned today and bring this to the rest of your people. Otherwise, I have wasted my time with you because one person hearing these
Yeah.
things at an MSP, not going to all of them, you've wasted your time. I've wasted mine. So is Connor. So is Mike. Right. So, a couple things I think stand out to me. To steal from John Harden, I feel like every time we talk about what AI is doing, how much the game is changing. Every time we talk about AI today, something new comes out. Like a couple weeks ago, OpenClaw came out and it changed the game. And we haven't even talked about OpenClaw and its capabilities. I guess we can if anyone wants to just hit in Q&A, talk about OpenClaw. But I feel like the game is constantly changing. But we are in a world today, right now, where human to human, in person authentication still works. So there is a world where like this is still valuable. Now I realize Elon's robots may one day change the game. We're gonna have to like check for temperature and cut someone open to see if they bleed. I get that we're going there,
You're gonna have
but
to
right
get the
now,
Tom Cruise mask and like pull people.
exactly. And I'm sure
Yeah, come
CIA can
on.
do that, right? Like I'm sure they can. So we are in a world where human to human authentication really works well. We've built strong controls around authentication, but bad guys do impersonate people and they're always going to use it in some type of digital channel at the moment. One day that might change. But for now, if that's the battlefield that we are playing in, then here's some questions I think you need to come back to your team and sit down and ask these questions. Bring in some tier three, bring in some service manager, bring in some of the right people in the MSP and sit down and ask these questions. If we got an unexpected request that came across in a authorized channel or unauthorized, what we do about it? Someone calls in, we get an email, there's a ticket that comes into the PSA. What would we do if it's an unexpected request? How would we handle that? And I would just open the conversation, because what you're going to hear is the right answer, but the real answer too. And push your teams. Come on, guys. This is not an academic discussion. This is how are we doing this today? Because I want to find our weak points in our armor so we can go build it up. Secondly, what's our verification process when someone calls? How do we actually know it's them? Because 11 Labs will tell us voice doesn't work, because EasyDMARC will tell us how easy it is to spoof an email, right? So what we need to do is say, what does actual verification look like? We've talked about that today. What kind of approvals do we have in place today that could be social engineered? Where could something happen? So take a path, like literally follow your SOP. Go bring up IT Glue and go look at your password reset process and go look at it from the lens of a bad guy and say, how could that be social engineered for us to actually reset something? We're like, whoops, yep, well, that could have happened, right? You've got to game plan this stuff out because it's going to happen. And then how do we train our people on app consent? All of these things we talked about, OAuth or OAuth and all of this. We've got to talk through those things. And then how do we verify identity at all levels? And show them that stupid video I just made if you want to see them. It's not that it's a great video, but it just shows you how easy it is to make this stuff, right? I could go make a video of the CEO of one of your clients in a car and very quickly say, hey, look, I don't have time for this. Just send you a quick video. I need to get this password reset real quick. I'm walking into a client meeting. Please do it right now. I can do that in a few minutes in Sora or whatever. So, or maybe Kling is a better example, but I can do that. So those are some take-home questions I think you need to bring back to your teams and discuss. Connor, anything you feel like I left out or you want to elaborate or add to?
I think that's perfect. I think one thing to call out that people should focus on, you're going to get the right answer, but then you're also going to get the real answer. The difference between the two is where the risk is in your organization with your and also with your clients.
Yep.
It's like everyone jokes about like the shared admin accounts or shared global admin on Microsoft tenants, and then like every now and then, even I'll meet an MSP. Sometimes I'm onboarding them onto Fin, and I'll make the joke, and then they'll like actually like no, like we still do that in some cases. It's like wait a second, hold on. It's like okay, understood. They're like no, but we're actually safe with it. I was like that's exactly what everyone thinks until they're not. So uh, the difference between the right answer and the real answer is all about are people following your process? Do they actually know what's in IT glue, or do they just feel like they should do what's convenient?
With all of this stuff, man, how do users like just common guys like me and in your MSPs that you work with, how do they avoid fatigue and just oversaturating man, I had to jump through 17 hoops just to log into my email or something or whatever. How do we teach these guys to avoid the fatigue?
I think
Go
there's
ahead,
a
Connor.
I think a lot about this problem because the trade-off you get with increased security is typically reduced convenience. It's not always the case, but it is sometimes the case. And in a world where uh, really making sure the person or the device, in the case of OpenClaw, that's requesting access information or money is actually who they say they are, there needs to be a little bit of inconvenience that comes along with that. It's another form of authentication and another way to build trust. Uh, so personally, I'm going to step outside of like the professionally, but personally, what I do to actually protect myself from that fatigue, to make sure that I'm willing to give every request for sensitive information access or money, like the duty it deserves, the care, the TLC it actually deserves, is I actually like start cutting off the abilities to get those communications. I don't have my email go to my phone like notifications. I can check my email if I want. I don't have phone numbers that I don't have saved in my phone, even have the ability to leave a message. Like everyone has a different way that they interface with communication, so you need to decide what's good for you. But it is really important to protect your attention, is actually the way I phrase it, because um, even if you don't, you will eventually be like, okay, this doesn't matter anymore. There's just too much noise in the system, so removing the noise is not a bad thing.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, God, I just set this redid this password, and I got to do this to do this to do this to this. I'm like, am I
I,
ever gonna get in? I'm like, I'm
I
tired of
would I would consider that just bad app design on the provider's part. So there is a
it.
little bit of
Okay,
that too. It's like, dang, I
okay,
wish people were just better at this. But and the good companies are really good at this, at making sure it is convenient. The companies that don't focus on this, and there are a lot that probably everyone uses on a regular basis. Like, man, I walked upstairs and somehow it thinks I'm in Timbuktu now, and it's or the worst is like account sharing on like Netflix or something. You're like, dude, I just went to my upstairs TV. Why do I have to scan this QR code and enter their password? Oh, now I need to do my password manager's password to get access to my password's password. It's just like, all right, you know what? I think I should just go to bed. And then you just turn it off and you go to bed anyway. Like there is some of it as bad design, but a lot of it just comes down to being willing to give every request the TLC it deserves.
Wes, with all your training, how do you talk to your MSPs about how to, set all this up in your system?
The good news is you don't have to pioneer this. Please don't feel like what we're doing is scaring you into inaction that you might as well give up. If that's what you're taking out of this, go get the recording, listen to it all over again from a different perspective and heart, because I think the real story behind this is you don't have to pioneer. You don't have to be Bank of America. You don't have to be Fort Knox. There is a middle ground. And I think a couple things that should hopefully help you. If we look at the physical analogy, the physical world, I badge into some this idea of like okay, in order to get into the building, I have to badge into this level. Okay, cool. Now I have access into the building. I can get into the elevator and go to these areas, but to go onto this floor and into this area, I've got to badge into something else, right? And so now I badge in that. It's this idea of what we really want to do is make sure we protect the authentication. If you look at like what's happened in the past maybe 15 years, we've seen this evolution from the firewall and antivirus is all you needed because the castle and moat was the on-prem entry point, and that's what we protected. Well, today, what's happened is identity is now the new edge, right? It's this idea of who our people are and what they can access is the most important thing. And so take heart that there are some things we need mature things like mature authentication, passkeys, like all the things we talked about, all that stuff, put that in place, right? We need good cloud, zero trust networking types of approaches to who can access what based on where and why and all that kind of stuff. Hardening devices correctly. There's a number of things we can do to protect the initial access, the protection of the identity itself, and then we can easily control where the identity goes. It's not as bad as you think. It's not as hard as you might perceptualize. So that's what I would say is just understand it's shifted, but you start putting these things in place, and I think you can have a good defensible position.
Yeah. Awesome, man. But golly, this time went by fast. I'm
It
not sure
did.
if we got to everything, but man, what a very spirited conversation. People listening, you got any questions for our two specialists, Wes and Connor? But please don't ask me a question because I don't know. I just work here. But any Q&A from our participants and our people listening. If not, Wes, final comments.
We succeed one step at a time, right? So just put the next foot forward and just keep walking down this journey of security. We're all in it together. Reach out if I can ever help you, Wes at empathmsp.com. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Con.
I would echo the similar thing. Every time I gave a presentation around this and people trying to protect themselves, when I was working with small business development centers, the slide that I always made sure to stick on is like, this is the one you need to take with you. It wasn't like, here's all this technology you need to go adopt. It was like, spend 4 seconds on a phishing email, enable MFA. Here's how you create strong passwords. It was all incredibly simple things that you could do right now, right today, to just put yourself one step in the right direction. One step leads to two, two leads to three is how it usually happens. So don't think you need to boil the ocean here. Take one step at a time.
Man, that's
Yeah.
that's a great term. That you know what, this stuff seems overwhelming, especially to a novice like me. But eat the elephant one bite at a time. Sorry, Wes, I'm not going to eat your shirt or your.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. David has a question. Who are the people you recommend? Anybody on YouTube? I love YouTube because I'm watching Chase Hughes, Six Axis Influence, all kinds of great stuff. But is there anybody that they can just go on and watch some stuff? I heard Wes, you mentioned a couple of people. Who are
Yeah,
these?
speed run through folks. Nick Ross, it's called T minus 365. A personal friend of mine, amazing guy. John Saville, Savill. He'll come right up. Microsoft trainer, awesome guy. I would recommend Tom Lawrence, good friend of mine, awesome guy, great trainer. John Hammond, not the Jurassic Park John Hammond, the real security John Hammond. Check him out. He's really good too. And those will probably start leading. Oh, and obviously Kelvin SIP, CIPP, the SIP project slash Lime slash whatever his. My brain's not going there, but anyway, anything Kelvin does is obviously amazing as well. So those are the ones I would follow, and I promise you, you start following those, you'll start learning like crazy.
Connor.
I was actually going to recommend Nick and Tom as well. I think Wes and I are in a lot of the same group chats. I don't know. I watch a lot of golf content, so good golf is what I'd recommend if you're looking for something that's more lighthearted and not severe. But seriously, everyone that Wes mentioned are experts in their craft. Nick has some. I've seen him work a room at a conference where he's just giving you things that you can do in the conference center, like in the talk, to meaningfully make your customers more secure. It's not some like esoteric physical philosophical debate about what to do about Microsoft and what not to do. It's like, here are the buttons to click, here are the knobs to twist, here are the dials. Like,
That's
do
what
these things today. His
yeah,
He's a
videos
rock
on
star.
YouTube are the exact same way.
yeah, I need to connect the dots. I'm simple like that. So
Yeah.
Michael Miller says, no questions, but he uses Empath and Phin. Good shout out to you boys. Why aren't you using EasyDMARC? I don't
All
see
right,
that in
time
the get
time to
on.
move in, Mike. Let's just
Yeah.
make the trifecta.
Yeah, so QR codes are up, scan those, reach out to your reps. Wes and Connor, man, always a pleasure. Thanks for showing up. All our participants, really appreciate you all being here. Thanks for the conversation, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.